Our Major Garrett is at the White House. Major, there are a lot of different things to talk about here. I want to start with health care, though. We know that the bill still doesn't have enough votes to pass in the House. So what is the White House doing to woo some of those Republicans who are still thinking they're going to vote no?
Well, here's the news of this morning that I can report, talking to two senior administration officials about the very intense effort going on here at the White House at this hour to revive the health care bill. And it will include a meeting between the President of the United States and Fred Upton, the Michigan congressman mentioned in that piece, and Billy Long, a congressman from Missouri, both of whom have become conspicuous no's in the last couple of days, and are those kind of figures within the House Republican Conference that if they come back yes on the bill, might bring others with them. The senior administration officials I spoke with are very confident that when Congressman Upton comes here, he will bring an amendment to the underlying bill currently being debated within the House Republican Conference on repealing and replacing Obamacare that he can support and will offer it up to the president and his therefore underlying support. So the White House believes by the end of today, Congressman Upton and quite probably Billy Long of Missouri will go from no to yes. They also believe they'll bring a few votes with them in the process. And the two senior administration officials I've spoken to today believe the House is likely to vote on this, meaning the full bill, redrafted a couple of more times, by Friday or Saturday at the latest. Why does this matter to the White House? Well, because the House is scheduled to leave this weekend for a lengthy week recess. And the White House believes if the House leaves for yet another recess and doesn't vote on a repeal and replace bill for Obamacare, they'll never vote on it. So the pressure from the White House is very intense. The president is also making telephone calls to those undecided House Republicans today. But the White House, in ways that sound similar to the confidence they expressed a couple, 3 weeks ago, actually looks a bit different in substance and in votes. Because unlike previous episodes where there clearly were not enough votes to pass it, they're not in that territory yet. They're right up against it, but they believe they can turn some votes and will do so starting with Congressman Upton today and regain the momentum and actually get a floor vote Friday or Saturday and that win the president has so eagerly seeking.
All right, well, a lot of work to do in a short period of time. I could ask you more questions on health care, but because there's so much to talk about, I got to switch to another topic. The budget now, Major. We saw the president lash out on Twitter yesterday. He said maybe the country needs a good shutdown. But then when he went into the Rose Garden, he called the bill a win for the Republicans. And we heard something similar from Mick Mulvaney as well in the briefing room. What do you read into the messaging surrounding this deal?
Look, it's a compromise. The Republicans and the president got some things that they otherwise wouldn't have gotten had they not been elected. That's a fact. The president increased defense spending and in the process did not have to agree to what Democrats have historically required, which is a dollar-for-dollar increase in non-defense spending. The president didn't have to do that. 20 cents on the dollar is what Democrats got out of this. That's a distinct win for the White House. Is there money for the border wall? No, that's a loss for sure. But is there other money for border security defined differently than a border wall? Yes, there is. That's consistent in general with one of the president's priorities. Now, did all the other budget cuts the president put up to Capitol Hill in his original budget request get approved? No, they didn't. The president had to take some defeats and losses there. Guess what? That's what happens in a compromise situation. What the president doesn't like is the idea that congressional Democrats ran so rapidly to the microphones to declare victory and deprive him of what he thought was, on balance, a decent and defensible deal. What the president's also learning is this is the first piece of legislation that he's really dealt with that has to meet that 60-vote benchmark in the Senate. And when you can't get 60 votes any other way than to compromise with Democrats, guess what? You have to compromise. He's getting used to that, but that doesn't mean he's comfortable with it.
All right, indeed. Foreign policy now. Major,
Yes.
We are awaiting the arrival of Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas at the White House today. What's on the agenda?
Look, it's all about touching every single base in the region. And by the region, I mean the Middle East. And this is the last of the most significant bases for this president to touch. He's met with the Saudis, he's met with the Israelis, the Egyptians, the Jordanians, the Iraqis, all of the key players in the larger construct of Middle East policy, and as a part of that, possibly renewing or reviving long dormant talks between the Israelis and the Palestinians about the specifics of a two-state solution or a peace deal. And having talked to all the other players, it's crucial for this White House to touch base with the head of the Palestinian Authority, Mahmoud Abbas. There are not predictions within this White House about an enormous breakthrough, but it is part of the process of bringing everyone in, finding out what their baselines are, finding out what they need to get to the point where there are some serious negotiations. And the Palestinians know that this president is very much on the side of the Israelis when it comes to security and the overall negotiating agenda of Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister. So the Palestinians have to figure out how they can work their agenda into where the president is on that, and that's an element of today's meeting.
All right, Major Garrett at the White House, thank you so much, Major.
Sure.